Scott Quigg has ever been.
Okay, it's called Frampton Quigg. So I'll ask you first. How's it going?
I'm going to win. I have the power to knock him out. I also have the boxing brain to beat him comfortably on points. But I'm going to win.
Scott Quigg.
I'm going to win by knockout.
It's called The Gloves Are Off, Frampton versus Quigg. The Gloves Are Off it's a version, okay, put it this way. It's the Sky Sports UK version of HBO Face Off with Max Kellerman. You have Johnny Nelson, who's the mediator. You have Carl Frampton and Scott Quigg sitting at a table in a dark room, and they're talking about their upcoming fight, asking each other questions. One of the questions that came up, which we'll start off with, is who's more popular? I'm going to go ahead and say Carl Frampton, and I think that's pretty much clear. I mean, he signed with Al Heyman, for crying out loud. Scott Quigg is a good fighter. I started covering Scott Quigg in 2012 for the second Rendell Monroe fight. Of course, I've seen the first one. And when you look at what Scott Quigg has done, he has gotten better, it looks like, with each fight. And with the stoppage of Kinko Martinez, he looked really good. And also, Kinko Martinez was an opponent that Carl Frampton had to fight twice or fought twice to get the more defined win. I'm T Street Controversy. This is T Street Controversy Live. I cover every single major fight live. February the 27th, 2016, Carl Frampton, IBF champion at 122 pounds versus the WBA world champion, Scott Quigg, at 122 pounds. When I say the world champion, Guillermo Rigondeaux, let's just be honest. Guillermo Rigondeaux is the king of the 122-pound division. He's not moving up. He's not going anywhere. He's staying at 122. The WBA had ordered that the winner of Scott Quigg versus Carl Frampton must fight Rigondeaux because they did not strip Rigondeaux, the WBA. What they did was give him what's called a champion in recess status. So, if you don't know, I have to explain it to you. The WBA has two belts. The WBA Super World, which Guillermo Rigondeaux once had but was stripped of, and the WBA World. The WBA going into 2017 should only have one champion. So the belt that Scott Quigg currently has right now won't be around next year. So I'm surprised right now they didn't move Scott Quigg up to super champion status because they are doing a unification fight for a world title. I mean, like not the recognized world title. For example, the IBF won't allow, or it looks like they won't allow for Gennady Golovkin to fight Danny Jacobs because they don't support those type of unification bouts. But when it comes to Scott Quigg versus Carl Frampton, they're saying that the winner must fight Rigondeaux. Now, who do I feel has the better chance to beat Rigondeaux? Well, we have to see who wins between Carl Frampton versus Scott Quigg. In my opinion, a 50-50 fight. Carl Frampton, in my opinion, is the better overall boxer. He can move, he's got the hand speed, he's got the accuracy, the combinations to where Scott Quigg is more of a pressure fighter, power puncher, punches and volumes type of dude. And we saw that Carl Frampton was able to go down against the relative unknown Alejandro Gonzalez, which is, I provided coverage for that fight. And Scott Quigg may feel that now he'll be able to capitalize off of that if he keeps the pressure on Carl Frampton. But Carl Frampton, like I said, is very good fighting off the back foot. He's going to do a lot of moving, as Scott Quigg was saying in the Gloves Are Off. And right now, if I was, put it this way, right now, in my opinion, I'm going with Scott Quigg by decision. I'm going with Carl Frampton by decision on the cards. But if Scott Quigg was to win, he would either win by multiple knockdown situations where Carl Frampton is actually controlling the rounds, but likely gets knocked down a couple of times, or he could win by stoppage. But I just don't see Carl Frampton getting stopped. There's a lot of money in this fight, and the biggest question of this fight is, well, who's going to fight Guillermo? I mean, who's going to like fight Guillermo Rigondeaux. Guillermo Rigondeaux will travel over to the UK to fight either of these guys. Why? Because he's fighting James Jazza Dixon on the undercard of Flanagan versus Matthews. And it's like, why wouldn't he come over to fight Carl Frampton or Scott Quigg? Also, Guillermo Rigondeaux is signed with Rock Nation, who will put the financial backing behind him if it comes to a purse bid type of situation. So neither Scott Quigg or Carl Frampton's team can say, well, we're going to dodge Rigondeaux because Rigondeaux don't bring in no money. It may be a boring fight, but you can't use, according to Rigondeaux's style, when it comes to whether he fights the winner, if it's Carl Frampton, or the winner if it's Scott Quigg, you might say it's a boring fight depending on who he fights, but they can't use the excuse that the money is not going to be there. Gloves are off. Put it this way. I think I like the fact that they're long. You know, this one was 22 minutes long, but I think they need to come up with better questions. Johnny Nelson needs to be a little, I know it's about the fighters, but Johnny Nelson needs to be a little more involved to, get a little more controversial. For example, for him to, you know, deeply ask in a deep manner to Carl Frampton what happened with the Alejandro Gonzalez fight. And also, if Scott Quigg feels that Carl Frampton is not the bigger name, not the more popular fighter, then why is he signed with Al Heyman? You know, questions like that. You know, I mean, I know they may sound a little silly to you. Maybe I'm just rambling, but it's just, you know, the point I'm trying to make is I wanted some more from there. The 122-pound division is not really deep anymore. I mean, yeah, you have a potential fight with Scott Quigg or Carl Frampton against Nonito Donaire, who's the WBO champion at 122 pounds. But outside of what's next for either of these guys, right now they're at the peaks of their career. If one of them loses, you know, it's going to be hard for them to work their way back up, especially if it's Scott Quigg. But like I said, we don't know. Scott Quigg is a pressure fighter, power puncher, you know, and he can apply enough pressure against a Carl Frampton, who later in fights decides to lay on the ropes a little bit. And also, he's not too comfortable at 122 pounds anymore. I have that interview here on the channel. I know Scott Quigg can win. You know, this is not a fight where, you know, it's just a complete mismatch. Scott Quigg has a legitimate chance to win, especially since the way Carl Frampton looked against Alejandro Gonzalez. But Carl Frampton is hella fast. Like I said, it all depends, you know, the future of these guys all depends on if they'll take the test to fight Rigondeaux. Now, I feel that a Carl Frampton can beat a Rigondeaux. Hell, I feel a Scott Quigg can beat a Rigondeaux. But will they? That's the question. Will they? You know, I can say all I want that, oh yeah, you know, I think Scott Quigg can beat him. I'm not saying that he will. Don't get it confused. I'm T Street Controversy. This is T Street Controversy Live. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the episode of The Gloves Are Off on my Facebook page and also retweet it on my Twitter, which is right down below in the description box. Right after it's called Carl Frampton versus Scott Quigg. And also on that day, we got Leo Santa Cruz versus Kinko Martinez in a weight division above at 126 pounds. I'm going to be doing a live streaming show that night on YouTube, and we're going to talk about it. T Street Controversy After Dark is what I call it. Please subscribe.